good morning. So today our guest has this immense love for sports, which started from her being a child, especially because she used to play catch with her father. This eventually turned into something more because then she became the cricket captain and the netball captain at her university at Oxford. Then she decided to pursue a career in management consultancy, but then she realized that she was interested in something else, which was sports essentially. So she left her career, went back home, which was New Delhi, and decided to become a sports agent. There, she realized that the sports industry specifically faced a lot of issues, especially when it came to transparency. So she decided to start her own company. But let's hear from the founder of her company herself, Ishveen, on 10 Minutes of Hiding Wisdom. Hi, Ishveen. How are we doing today?
Oh, really well. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, Ishween. So can you tell us about your company? As in, like, I did give a little intro about why you wanted to start something like this, but can you tell us about what your company does and how things have been going for you?
Yeah, good. So I started open sponsorship about 6 years ago when I was like massively in love with sponsorship as a form of marketing, but I just thought deal making was really difficult, not very data driven, not very smart or innovative, and thought there must be a better way to do this. And so we created what some people say is Match.com or Airbnb of our industry. So on one side we have athletes, on one side we have brands, and then we are the platform that connects the two.
Okay. And do you think, as in, like, how have things been going? Like, especially because in India, for example, people usually, like, I come from Pakistan, so there's this hesitance towards pursuing a career in sports, specifically because I think there's this preconceived notion that you can't make a lot of money when it comes to sports. But do you think there was a lot of scope? Were people much more receptive back home for this, like something like this, or how have things been?
Yeah, good. So the company is actually based out of America, which is where I moved in 2013. So I'd say, obviously, in America, sports is it's a billion-dollar industry, lots of jobs, lots of people working in it. I would definitely say in Asia or with the kind of South Asian parents, I think that still exists, where is sports a real career and, whatever it may be. I was lucky that actually it took me a minute to convince my parents that, let me do this thing and don't worry, it'll be fine. But I think now they're really proud. And I do think now there is a little bit more visibility that working in sports is a real career, because there's so many more tournaments and there's so many more agencies out there. So I think, yeah, it's better.
I think so. And I think one thing that I absolutely love about sports specifically is it's a universal language, like where people from different parts of the world can come together, but usually even if they can't communicate with each other in the same language, it's the same rules that bind them together, which is something that I absolutely love. And I think that's something that's always attracted me to sports. So you mentioned that it's specifically based in the US and everything. So do you think the pandemic definitely, as in, like, how has the pandemic shifted the way your organization specifically deals with like sponsorships and everything?
Yeah, I'd say there's a lot of changes, like internally as well as like what we were doing externally. So internally, we were a team all based in New York pre-pandemic. We went to the office every day, very traditional. Now we're a team of 14, and we're based literally all over America, and then one person in the UK. And remote is, I mean, it's our new culture. And frankly, I never thought, if it wasn't for COVID, I never would think that I would be working remotely and working from home. It wasn't how I was brought up. It's, not natural to me, but surprisingly, it's been quite nice. So I think that's been interesting. In terms of sponsorship, as you can imagine, a lot of it is digital. So already the social media platforms and, influencer marketing and using athletes to do things on Instagram was already becoming big, but I'd say COVID has expedited that trend massively. So 95% of what we do is digital now.
Okay, so as in, like, I think it must have been hard for you specifically because I think we're brought up with this idea that, oh, you have this 8 to 4 p.m. job, you have to go to office and everything. But the transition, I think many companies were forced into it, but a lot of companies are actually, even though things are getting better, especially pro-pandemic, a lot of companies are still going for the hybrid model because a lot of people like it. Do you think your team especially likes the like hybrid, like currently just the remote work environment, or how, as like, does your team miss the human interaction within the office?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I'd say, well, primary thing would be that we would never employ in Atlanta or Florida or San Diego if we weren't, which is where some of our team is. I don't think we would ever employ them if we weren't kind of remote. So I think the beauty of remote is they may miss going to an office and interacting, but they wouldn't be able to work for us because we would never have an office in 20 different locations with just too small. And so I think like the trade-off is you can work for whoever you want to work for, and live wherever you want, which I think is really powerful. And then I would say, you know, it's also allowed us to hire people with kids, which, to be honest, I think New York is the kind of place where if you have children, you tend to leave or you need a certain level of income to support them. So it really didn't allow us to like get a good kind of variety of people. And I think it's nice. The work from home culture is basically allowing people with kids to do, you know, not be restricted by their job choice, which I think is important.
That's very true. I think everything does have its flip side and good sides. And I think it's making the most of every situation that's thrown at us is something that's very important. So you mentioned that you are currently a team of 14 people, which are based in different parts of the US. So are you currently hiring? If you are, what kind of skills, what kind of people do you look for to be a part of your team? And if you're not currently hiring, would there be a chance of opening with a new company? Because it sounds like an amazing company. And I'm pretty sure athletes, people who love sports would definitely be love to be part of your company specifically.
Yeah, so yeah, we are hiring, and there's kind of two types of hires where you can either hire for potential or you can hire for experience. Obviously, if you hire for experience, then you tend to pay a premium because they have the experience. But as a startup, things are constantly changing. So the experience I may need from you today might not be for tomorrow. So I would say that we are pretty big on hiring for potential, which basically means like, are you smart? Are you driven? Can you give us some sort of guidance that you've done something prior that is relevant, but it doesn't need to be exactly the same thing. So yeah, and then in terms of positions, I mean, sales is probably one of the things that everyone's always hiring for, sales or account management. But as well as that, you know, we look for full stack engineers, marketing, creative people. So yeah, quite a lot.
Okay, so a lot of openings. And if people do reach out to me, specifically if I can see them aligning with your company's culture, and especially if they're sports driven, I think they would be a fantastic fit for your company. But Ishween, thank you so much for being such an incredible woman, and especially like sports. Usually, I think there's always this like idea of women not being as good in sports where they can't pursue a career in that. So you're definitely breaking the stereotypes and making a mark on the world. So thank you so much for doing something for women specifically who are interested in pursuing a career in sports, whether it's actually being a part of the sport or whether it's actually promoting sports. So thank you so much, Ishween. It was a pleasure having you as a guest. And if people do reach out to me with interest regarding your company, I will definitely forward them to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Manal.